From Washington, D.C., Roland Martin. Good morning.
Tom Sybil Guy, good morning. Glad to be here. Shout out to Andrea Hoffman and the Culture Shift Venture Capital Conference that takes place in New York City this weekend. I saw just tons of black folks who are in that space, and so always good to see all of them there. And also to Detroit, you're laying, you are celebrating today the homegoing of former Congressman John Conyers, 90 years old, passed away last Sunday. His homegoing is today in Detroit. This morning we'll be live streaming it on Roland Martin Unfiltered digital platform, and so former President Bill Clinton is going to be there, and so and I appreciate President Bill Clinton being there as well as the other speakers, because a lot of people last week did not give Congressman John Conyers his due, Tom. A lot of people, he resigned from Congress, sexual harassment allegations, but 53 years he put in the work in Congress, and so we certainly give condolences to his family. In a few days, in fact, next week, November 13th, 9 days away, Byron Allen goes to the Supreme Court to argue a case against cable giant Comcast. In this case, tied to lawsuit he filed against Comcast, Charter, and several other companies, saying that he was being prevented from having his networks carried on their cable systems, and he is suing them under the guise of a civil rights act that was passed by Congress in the 1800s. This surprised many people. Of course, Byron Allen, head of Entertainment Studios, joins us right now, the founder and CEO. Byron, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Great to hear your voice, and Tom also as well. Just a huge fan of both of you.
What's up, old friend?
How you doing, buddy? How you doing? We go
good.
back to, probably 1979 when I first met you, or 1980 when we both had really nice afros. I knew Tom before the Jerry curl was invented, and at Johnson Publishing at JPC,
yes.
And we met on Michigan Avenue at the headquarters of Johnson Publishing. John H. Johnson, one of my heroes. And his book, Succeeding Against the Odds, is probably the best business book ever written, and every American should read it.
I've read it 3 times.
Not The Art of the Deal?
No, not the Art of the Deal. Yeah, that's not the business book you need to read.
No, absolutely. Plus, he didn't write it.
You got to rename that Art of the Steal. So
Okay.
You ain't lying.
That's exactly it.
What
That's
up, Byron?
exactly it. So Byron, tell us, that's Guy Torrey who's giving you a shout out there.
Oh, my God, Guy, how you doing?
What's up, man?
Good. That's one of the funniest human beings on the planet. Oh, man.
You're one of the smartest.
Yeah, he's very funny for a short guy. All right, let's. So Byron, this a lot of people I just really heard about this lawsuit, and so talk about why you're using the Civil Rights Act from the 1800s.
Well, I supported Senator Obama, and he became president, and I worked. I had a good relationship with his administration, and when these companies tried to get bigger, Comcast wanted to buy, this company, and Charter wanted to buy this company. His administration came to me and said, "These good citizens," and I said, "Do you want the real answer or the Hollywood answer?" And they said the real answer, and I said the answer is not no, it's hell no. They're not good corporate citizens, in my humble opinion. And they said, "Why do you feel this way?" I said, "Well, as an industry, they spend $70 billion a year licensing cable networks, and Negroes get practically zero. And out of that $70 billion in licensing cable networks." And I said, "This is wrong. We don't really truly own our networks on these platforms. We're not getting economic inclusion so we can build out our networks to have a strong and powerful voice and have a true democracy in America." They said, "Well, we hear that quite a bit, but everybody's afraid to speak out. People are afraid of repercussions." And I said, "Well, I'm not afraid to speak out. That's what I do. I'm a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
We naturally speak out. That's what comedians do. We tell the truth and we speak out. And I said, I'll do it, but I'm not going to do it by going to the FCC. I'm going to do it in a way where we can really deal with this for once and for all. So I used the Civil Rights Act of 1866, Section 1981, and this was a statute put on the books to protect the newly freed slaves. The slaves were freed in December of 1865, and they put this statute on the books, the very first Civil Rights Act in America. Been on the books 153 years, and they put it on the books to make sure we had a pathway to economic inclusion, government contracting and commercial contracting. And some historians believe the reason we never got 40 acres and a mule reciprocity is because we got this law. So when you went to them, they said, hey, Roland, you're not going to get that 40 acres and a mule, but you did get this law to make sure that you have an economic pathway. And if you can make me rich, Roland, you can make yourself rich now that you're free. So this law was put in place for us to participate in the American economic pie. So I used it. We went downtown. The judge there ruled in Comcast's favor twice. And the judge that's on the Comcast, that was a $20 billion lawsuit against Comcast. And on a $10 billion lawsuit against Charter, the judge ruled in our favor. Well, Charter wasn't happy with that ruling, and they said, look, we're going to go to the Ninth Circuit. So I said, listen, if you're going to go to the Ninth Circuit on my ruling, I'm going to go to the Ninth Circuit on the Comcast ruling. So we all got on the happy bus, and we went to the Ninth Circuit. And the Ninth Circuit, we made history. We made history as a people. The Ninth Circuit ruled in our favor not once, but twice. And so they were in shock. And, the Ninth Circuit told them that you can't use this higher standard. Comcast and Charter, the number one and number two cable operator, their position was you need to use the but-for standard, which means that in order for Guy to use it, Guy must prove that the reason we discriminated against him is 100% is that he's black. And we could actually tell him to his face, for the most part, it's 99% because you're black, but 1% of the reason we discriminated against you is because you're wearing tennis shoes. And Guy can't even use the law to bring a lawsuit, not win the lawsuit, bring the lawsuit.
Wow. As a result, a number of civil rights organizations have filed briefs supporting your position on this, saying that if the Supreme Court accept this standard, to say it's 100%, that no one will be able to file a lawsuit. And in fact, Comcast is allowing the Department of Justice, which is very rare, 10 minutes of their 30 minutes before the Supreme Court to argue with them.
What?
Yeah, and that is
never happened.
That's never happened. So what they did was, the Ninth Circuit said, no, Guy doesn't need to prove 100% that the reason he was discriminated against is that he's black, because that's an impossible standard, the but-for standard. It's the motivating factor standard. If any part of the reason you discriminated against Guy, if it was 10%, 20%, 50%, it's enough of a reason for Guy to use the law to simply bring forth a lawsuit so we can go into discovery. So the Ninth Circuit held that position. So Comcast, with all their wealth and power and Charter, they took it to the Supreme Court. And not only that, they got Donald Trump's DOJ to write them an amicus brief, a friend of the court, in support of Comcast and Charter, and they are physically standing in the courtroom arguing against us. Physically, Donald Trump's DOJ is in the courtroom arguing against us, basically saying, take these Negroes back to 1865.
So, Byron, when is it coming up in the Supreme Court? When is your case coming up?
November 13th.
Oh.
November
9 days away.
9.
Yeah, and they will make a decision, and what will happen is they will be able to discriminate against all minorities, and you won't have any pathway to hold them accountable. You won't be able to get a lawyer because they will say, hey, Tom, I can't represent you on contingency because it's too hard to prove that they discriminated against you because you're black. So I say 3 words: welcome to hell.
Oh,
man.
What a story.
We'll be following this
Byron,
case next week.
Yeah.
Fight the good fight, sir.
All right, Byron Allen.
Man. Hey, man,
You
go
got
in
it.
there. Give him